All right. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the May 2024 Argo CD and Rollouts Committee meeting. I'm your host for today, Jesse, maintainer of the Argo project. And if you haven't already, please add yourself to the attendee list. And while you're there, if you have any agenda items or topics you'd like to bring up, please feel free to comment on the Google Doc, and we should be able to get to them today. And before we start, just a reminder that the Argo project does adhere to the CNCF Code of Conduct, so please be courteous and respectful to each other during this meeting. And a reminder that this meeting is being recorded and will be uploaded to YouTube. Okay, so today we just have, looks like one item on the agenda, and it's about what's new in Argo Rollouts v1.7. And I'll pass it over to Zach to give us the lowdown.
Yeah, let me share my screen here and yeah, cool. Okay. So we recently released the 1.7 release candidate for Argo rollouts. It was kind of long overdue, but has a lot of interesting features, mainly around the UI. There was a total of 63 contributors, 41 of which were first time, and it included about 255 commits. One of the kind of bigger UI additions was a new analysis run module that we kind of worked with Credit Karma on creating. It kind of lets end users get a view into basically the analysis run CRD, but in a visual representation. So I kind of, there's a screenshot in the blog post where we talk about it, but I have a quick little example that I'll show here too. So this is using the rollouts extension, which is a view of basically the built-in rollouts dashboard. And as you'll see here, we have an analysis that has been running, which we can now click, and it brings up basically a dialog window of all the analysis templates that are configured for this particular rollout, and allows us to basically graph the returned results and see things like the query, how many failures there were, if there were any errors, etc. For analyses that don't necessarily return numbers, we also have a table view that we can basically dump the output of, like, jobs returning different things or anything along anything like that. This is pretty useful to kind of help debug, developers used to have to go in to look at the manifest basically and see what the results were. Now you can kind of get a graph view of it, which has been helpful for debugging why rollouts basically abort. So that is that. The other kind of bigger addition was there's now kind of a list view within rollouts. This is just running up in local, so I don't really have any controllers running right now, but basically it's a list view that's paginated once it gets to a certain length. It has some actions that are more available at the beginning. Uh, there's a pretty nice little filtering support, so you can kind of filter rollouts by label. So if you do have a bunch of rollouts in a single namespace, this lets you do some kind of filtering and finding of rollout resources a little bit faster, and kind of get a higher level overview of rollouts versus the traditional, grid view, where you kind of have just a little bit cleaner view. Um, so that's that. Then that was contributed by Philip. But like I said before, Emily from Credit Karma and Ashutosh from Intuit kind of worked together on the analysis module. Another interesting feature was analysis templates gained the ability to reference other analysis templates, which allows a little bit cleaner, centrally managed way to centrally manage templates. So you can now basically, within a template that you vend out, specify other templates that you want to basically be pulled in, and whether or not they're a cluster template or not. And then you can also include your traditional metrics here too. So you can add another metric that doesn't come from a template, and this kind of gives end users a different way to manage templates centrally. And OpenGideo contributed that. Uh, Another thing that we do it into it that we added, AstroTouch added this was pre 1.7 within notifications, you just used to have access to the rollout object itself. We now also attach all the current analysis runs for that particular revision to the notification as well. And we use this to kind of track why rollouts are failing. You know, if you we set this up as a webhook, which we send certain events to that contain basically the whole dump of JSON, and then we can query kind of how rollouts are configured and why analysis has failed and look at the results and etc. And so it's kind of nice to have the array of the analysis runs for the particular revision.
Is
Uh,
that just a array sorted by like when it was
it,
created?
Yeah, sort of basically the zero index is the most recent or the last
Oh,
the active analysis run. Yep, so you can
okay.
always basically safely access the zero element to know that that is the one that caused the abort, etc. Um Another theme was kind of basically using the analysis run features of rollout kind of independently of rollouts. So Kevin here to basically contribute a feature to allow the analysis run type to basically configure its own TTL settings. Um, they were basically manually creating analysis runs outside of rollouts and using them independently. Um, and they would basically build up a whole bunch of them because the rollouts controller isn't now cleaning those up. So this now allows basically analysis template or analysis runs to be uh, cleaned up by the controller outside of being used within a rollout resource. Which I'll talk about another feature that Acuity helped with to basically enable rollouts controller to basically turn off. You can now turn off the rollouts portion of it and basically run only the analysis run controllers, which kind of goes hand in hand with kind of this kind of ability here. Um, so that's kind of the high level features. There's a whole bunch more listed here. Like I mentioned, the ability to just run the analysis controller, and a few other kind of major ones. Same with jobs. You can now have jobs running in a separate, use a separate kube config. Uh, and that there's a handful of bug fixes as well that you guys can check on the full change log. This was just released not too long ago, so feel free to give it a try and give us feedback and report any issues. That's pretty much all I have.
Great. Thanks. Thanks, Zach. Any questions for Zach before we move on? Okay. And I didn't see any additional topics in the agenda. So, unless there was any other things people want to bring up, I think there'll be a short meeting this month. Great. All right. Thanks everyone, and we'll see you again next month. Thanks, Jesse. See you, Zach.
Later.